Marshall Rosenberg, the author of the book that is the subject of our talk series that we've been doing and the book study group, Nonviolent Communication, often used puppets when he was presenting and in his workshops, and in particular, the giraffe and the jackal. And you might be wondering, why a giraffe and a jackal? I was wondering the same thing. So apparently the giraffe has the largest heart of any land mammal, and so represents love, empathy, understanding, compassion, and the long neck represents its ability to see from a higher perspective, right? And the jackal is sort of an aggressive animal with sharp teeth, although you have to use your imagination when you saw this cute little puppet without the hidden teeth, but that represents judgment, criticism, and aggression, right? So, and he also would put on giraffe ears when he was indicating that he was now listening with the ears of empathy and compassion, or when he was working with people and they were speaking and asking questions that were indicating that he was listening with his giraffe ears. So these are kind of fun tools that he used that helped us, in a non-threatening way, accept these ideas that can be very difficult for the ego to hear, right? So, okay, so let's do a really quick review, if you'd like to, and where we've been, what we have learned so far, how we've learned to speak giraffe language. So the first idea, the first component of NVC that we talked about was observe. Yeah, observe without judgment. This is where we want to rise into our witness consciousness, where we want to be fully present in the now moment, being present to what is, right, without evaluation. Admittedly, a very difficult thing to do. So hopefully the meditation that I recorded helped you in this. So just to let you know, if you don't know already, the Wednesday meditations that I'm doing during this time are aligned with the principles in NVC, really just to, designed to help you embody the ideas. And they're free, they're available anytime, so avail yourself of them, okay? Okay, so the second thing that we learned was to identify our feelings without blaming someone else for causing them. This is what we talked about last week, that no one else and no event can cause us to feel anything. The other person or the event can be the stimulus for the feeling that is already within us, but they're not the cause. And so we talked about that. We talked about the more specific we can be with what we're feeling, the better able we are to connect with the need behind the feeling, because it is the need that gives rise, the need that is either met or unmet, that gives rise to the feeling. So that's the third component, is to identify the unmet need that is giving rise to the feelings. So you ready to explore the fourth component of NVC today? Yeah, okay. So that's about making requests, and making requests of others that would answer the need, or as Marshall Rosenberg says, the request of others that would enhance our life or enrich our life. So he was always talking about this life energy, this life force in all of us, which is a lot like what we talk about, right? We talk about this divine life force. We didn't use the word divine, but it's the same thing. It's this life energy. And there are ways of being and communicating that enhance that experience of that life energy within us. And then ways of communicating that block the flow of life, which he called life alienating communication. All right, so the idea of the requests to make them the most effective is, first of all, when making a request of others, we want to use positive language. So words like, would you be willing to do this? Or would you be willing to consider this? As opposed to, don't do this. Because you can't do a don't. So you want the positive language. So the second thing is we want to formulate our request in a form that allows for the person to take a concrete action. That is a specific concrete action someone can take. So we want to kind of stay away from the abstract, vague kind of ideas. Remember the phrase that Paul Hasselbeck used to say, what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. So we want to be specific and concrete things. So if I'm having a dinner party and I'm about to get ready to serve, and I, just say, somebody help me. People are going to go, what does she want? But if I'm specific and I say, would you be willing to help me set the table with placemats and forks and knives and napkins and glasses, that gives people a specific. So we want to be specific. So in our skit, right? In our skit, Jackal believes that Giraffe should have known that Giraffe should have given the invitation. She should have known, right? Well, no, there's no way Giraffe could have known. And so she asked the clarifying question, would you like me to include you in the invitations every time I have a party, regardless of whether you're in town or not? So that is something that, that Giraffe can do. That is a solid action that she can do. And also, remember that she asked the question, is that right? Notice that she asked the question just to confirm that she's understood him correctly. So this is a really important point in NVC because, people don't always hear what we're saying. Have you ever noticed? It's like everybody's got a set of filters in their ears, a different set of filters. They don't always hear. Different people hear different things. So it's always good to check. Am I understanding you correctly? Is this what I understood? Can you tell me what I said so that you understand what I'm saying? Another good idea there. And finally, remember, we're learning to make requests and not demands. So it's a demand when somebody would think if they didn't do it that they would be criticized or judged or punished in some way. So this is kind of the parent-child, dynamic. And when we are learning to do this, sometimes it's difficult to know the difference, to be able to distinguish the difference. But a clue would be, if they say no, how do you feel? Judging, criticizing, you're going to punish them, right? In some way. So that's a clue, right? And so we want to put it in the form, phrase it in a form that doesn't sound like a demand. So rather than, I need you to make this call for me, if we said something like, would you be willing to call this person for me? That's more of a request. And we got to be okay with the no. When the person says no, we have to be okay with it because that's a true request. Now, we're more likely to be effective in our requests when we have shared our feelings and our needs behind that with an open heart before we make the request. Just more likely. All right, so this whole way of thinking and communicating, which is really very different from what most of us are used to doing, has at its core this idea that we are all expressions of this one divine life and that we are all on a journey of awakening. We're all of us, somewhere on our journey of awakening, discovering our true self. And we want to awaken because we have been asleep and dreaming that we're separate from each other and separate from our good. So we want to wake up. And more than that, we don't even know it's a dream. We don't even know it's a dream. So it makes our journey arduous. And this dense physical world, although we know it's not dense now from what Maria shared with us, it feels that way, though, and it's definitely ego-driven and, separation thinking and this getting and taking and winning kind of idea is very seductive. It's very seductive. And so we want to give ourselves and others a big dose of compassion. Big dose of compassion, because this journey is not easy. And so that's a big part of NVC, is developing and expressing empathy. Developing and expressing empathy. And he talks in the book how true empathy is listening with your whole being. Not just listening with your ears or trying to figure out in your mind, but listening with your whole being listening. And he quotes this Chinese philosopher by the name of Zhuangzi, who says, empathy demands the emptiness of all the faculties. And when the faculties are empty, then the whole being listens. So this whole being listening, how often do we do that, really? Now, at UCP, we're blessed to have some ways to practice this. Our women's group, men's group, I think the deeper dive discussion group, right? It's all an opportunity for us to be present and available and practice this whole being listening. Just listening. Now, of course, this requires that we don't give advice, we don't try to fix, we don't try to educate, we don't even try to cheer up. We just are present and listening. And listening for the feeling and the needs that are behind the words or the lack of words. Listening for the feeling and the needs behind all of that. So in our skit, Giraffe was listening, right, for the feelings and the needs behind the kind of, harsh words that Jackal was presenting. And practice this idea of empathy listening, or empathy questions. So that's kind of the idea that you're connecting with somebody on a more subtle and energetic level and kind of tuning in with the person to see where they might be. And then ask possible questions. So a giraffe was asking possible questions. Excuse me. Are you feeling hurt? Is the first question. And then, doesn't know, but, is venturing a guess, right? Here's the thing. If you're wrong, that's okay. At least it's starting to clarify in the person's mind. And it's getting them to reach a little deeper, right? Reflect a little deeper. Oh, no, it's not hurt. What am I feeling? And then Giraffe asked the next question about the need to try to clarify in Jackal's mind what he's needing. What are you needing? Connection? Is it connection? Is it, inclusion? Yeah, right? And then again, ventured the next possible question, which was the request. A possible request. Would you like me to do this? The thing about the invitations. So Giraffe's persistence and patience paid off by healing the rift, right? And bringing them closer together. So patience and persistence is required. And it's sometimes not easy when someone is criticizing or attacking. It feels like an attack, not easy. This is what Marshall Rosenberg says about this. All criticism, attack, insults, and judgments vanish when we focus attention on hearing the feelings and needs behind the message. They all vanish when we focus on hearing the feelings and the needs behind the message. So, most of you have heard of Joseph Campbell, all right, who's the hero's journey guy and archetypes, and he talked about bliss, right? Find your bliss, live your bliss. He talked about bliss a lot. So he says, he suggests that if we're thinking in terms of what will they think of me, we must put this aside for bliss. We begin to feel this bliss when messages previously experienced as critical or blaming begin to be seen for the gifts that they really are, opportunities to give to people who are in pain. Opportunities to give to people who are in pain. Again, not easy to do. That's why we want to give ourselves empathy first. An abundance of compassion and empathy first. We want to listen deeply to our needs and what we are feeling and make requests that would answer those needs. Give that to ourselves first. And the better we can do that, the better we can do that with others, right? Then we can share it with others. So let's anchor this in with an affirmation that we can do together. And I invite you to do the arm motions with me, if you'd like to. So repeat after me. I first give compassion to myself. First give compassion to myself. And I practice whole being empathy listening. Practice whole being empathy listening. You see that? We're all speaking giraffe language now, boy. Woohoo! Thank you, and namaste.
Hi. If this video has inspired you, opened your heart, expanded your consciousness, filled you with hope, empowered you in some way, we encourage you to support what we offer here at Unity Center of Peace by making your donation now. And thank you.